Hello everyone, I am Language-Enthusiast. This channel is where I keep a record of my speaking progress. I practice my speaking once a day at least for about 30 to anywhere from 30 minutes to 50 minutes. Depending on the day, depending on my mood. But I don't think it's a good idea no, I don't think it's a good idea for myself to make it depending or do it depending on my mood, because as I said yesterday in my video that in order to get out of my comfort zone, I have to speak. The longer, the better. But the problem is that I always listen to the recording later again to review what I was doing, to understand if there is anywhere that I can improve. If I record my voice for an hour, it means that I will have to spend the same amount of time, which is 1 hour, in order to review, right? I think that could be a bit waste of time because I can't learn much from listening to what I recorded, because that's what I did myself, right? Or rather, I'd rather read something. It's important for me to know where I made mistakes, because we have to learn a lot from our own mistakes, right? If I don't listen to it again afterwards, it means that I will never be able to learn anything from it, right? In this respect, I think that I have to listen to the recording. This is something that I have to do. This is something that I never fail to do, because this is very important to improve my speaking and also understand where I am. Okay. And then what I'm going to talk about today, anything will do, right? Because this is for my practice, and as long as I speak, I can practice the topic. Any topic will do, right? Then I'll talk about my business. I have been on this business for more than 10 years now. The business is to sell t-shirts here in Japan on the net. I started the business around 2008 when Michael Jackson passed away suddenly. That was huge news, right? That was sensational, right? And then 2008, how old was I? Let's see. I was born in 1964, so 2008 minus 1964 means, 44 years old. All right. I have to talk about what I was doing even before that, okay? At the age of 40, I worked for a trading company, and it was a part-time job. But that was my very first time white-collar job, okay? Until then, I was working as a driver, night shift driver, or very early morning shift driver. I was raising my 3 daughters single-handedly. I was a single mother with 3 daughters at the age of 40. And I was doing that job for 5 years at that time. And then I decided to change jobs to my very first white-collar job. It's clerical work. Is it okay? My pronunciation is okay? Clerical work. Basically, I was supposed to stay in the office with other, 20-something people. And it's a small office. And it's close to a port, okay? So it's not in the center of the city or in a commercial area or somewhere. It's far away from such places. It's near the port and it's deserted, pretty deserted. There are only factories and warehouses. And I wanted to apply for the job because I thought that if I worked in the trading company, maybe I could use my English. I didn't know much about it, but I just thought so. And I applied for the job, and somehow I had to study to pass the I had to take the interview test, but I had to take an exam also, because, and that was my very first time. That was my very first time to take an exam to get a job, okay? Because just after I graduated from high school, I only have a high school diploma. I never been to university, okay? And then I was the only one when I was just before graduating from high school. I was the only one who didn't, who wasn't going to work for a company. I was the only person. I was the only student in the whole high school who didn't get a job as a full-time worker. Because in those days, I was into music and I wanted to be a musician, and I was in a band, and I wanted to continue playing music. So my only option was to have a part-time job. And when I graduated from high school, I was the only one who didn't get a full-time job. And in those days, now we have a certain name to call that kind of part-time job, or we now have a certain kind of name to call people who only have part-time jobs. Like we call them freelancer. Probably I don't know where it came from, and I don't think it's English though either. But it means that they are free. Okay, they are just free. That is why they are called freelancer. I'm not really sure if you have exactly the same name in English, though. Okay, and in those days, there was no such a word. There wasn't even a name like that. Is my English okay? We didn't even have that. No, I don't know how to say it. Okay, that name even never existed in those days. Okay, but I was so passionate about music. I really wanted to be a musician. I have this very famous band called Seven All Stars. They are still very famous, though. They are all alive even now, and they are in their 60s. They are getting older, but still they are famous and they're there, okay? They have been there. They have been around, okay? Which I feel very happy about, because that was the band that was my favorite band in those days when I was 18 years old, okay? And I admired them and I wanted to be like them, okay? But all the people around me complained about my becoming, or about my wanting to become a professional musician, because they all said that it was totally unrealistic. They said that I would never become a professional musician or famous musician. So they all tried to stop me. But I was so adamant, I was so young, and I was so naive. I was so, I don't know. Anyway, I really wanted to be a musician. So I didn't listen to them. And I think, looking back, I did the right decision anyway, because that was what I really wanted to do, right? And I'm a kind of person who tends to think that having a full-time job is like going to a prison, because from 9 to 5 you have to be in the office, right? There's no freedom. Freedom is a very complicated thing, and you cannot be always free, right? You cannot be always free. You have to do something. You have to be responsible for something, and then you can enjoy your freedom, right? At the same time, right? But I was too young to understand that, and all I wanted was freedom. All I wanted was just doing something that I really wanted to do. And I decided not to work as a full-time worker. And then, where was I? Yes. And then I worked as a part-time worker for the next 2 or 3 years. But my band at that time wasn't successful, and I ended up marrying the owner of a musical instrument store. And our band in those days used to practice there. But funny thing is that my ex-husband and I didn't meet in the studio of his shop. Okay, we met somewhere different. I mean, my ex-husband also had a part-time job other than his own shop. He's a son of the shop owner. At first he was a son of the shop owner, and he took over his father's occupation or job or a profession. And at that time, when I met him for the first time, he was working as a owner of the musical instrument shop, and he also had a part-time job because he couldn't survive only with the shop. Okay, the shop business was not very good, so he had to work in another place. And then that's the place where I was also working as a part-time job. And we met there. And I learned that he is the owner of the music instrumental shop. And I got interested in him because of that, probably. But anyway, it's a long story short, so I can't explain it thoroughly today. But okay, anyway, and I ended up marrying him. But before marrying him, my band broke up, and I had to give up music, and I felt desperate. And with feeling desperate, I decided to marry my ex-husband, and I stopped working, okay, because I had my first baby in my stomach. Okay, it's not stomach, but you can say that, right? In my womb. Okay, anyway. And I stopped working. And then for the next, 12 years or so, I never worked because I worked as a housekeeper. And then my ex-husband and I decided to get divorced. And then I had to work. It made me work again, all over again. Like 12 years, for the first time in 12 years. And I decided to choose the driver's job. My job was to deliver cooked rice for sushi. Okay, there is this huge box. I mean, it's not a cooler box, but it's a box, and it can be used to keep things cool, but it can also be used to keep things warm. And in this case, cooked rice. Cooked rice, was it cold or was it warm? I think it was still warm. Okay. And it's for sushi. Okay. It's the rice it was supposed to be used as sushi, which means that it's cooked rice, steamed rice, but already seasoned with vinegar, sugar, and salt. or any other additives, okay? And the box is about 10 kilograms, pretty heavy. And I would load 30 or 40 of this in a van, and I left the company and stopped by some supermarkets at very early hours. Like my job would start at around 2 a.m. Okay. And looking back, I would leave my 3 daughters at home, and then I left home to work, right? And I was working during very early hours, and I would come home at around 8 a.m. But my working situation was quite loose. Is it okay? Loose, lenient, and relaxed. So I could come back to my house once or twice while I was working, because I was a driver. I was just stopped by my house to take a look at my daughters, my children, and sometimes, I usually I would prepare breakfast for them, and then left home again, and I would go to the next supermarket to unload the boxes. Okay, and it was the best job I was able to do. That job was the best job for me in those days, because I was working while my daughters were asleep, and then I came back home in the morning, and when there was something that I had to go to their school, like visiting days or anywhere, okay, I could attend, or I could take part in all the events for them. So that was the perfect job for me. And I did it for 5 years. And then the job required physical, I don't know, that job required me to work physically. It was really hard in terms of physical. It's a physical work, because I had to load so many boxes, and I had to unload so many boxes, which were all heavy, and I hurt my back, and I couldn't sleep well because of the pain, and I had to sleep twice a day. Like the first time, I would go to sleep around 10 or so, and I had to wake up 4 hours later to go to work. And then after I came back home, I had something to eat, and then I felt a bit relaxed, and I took a bath, and then I go back to sleep. This is the second time, okay? And it's in the middle of the day, because I was working during the night shift, or very early early morning shift when everybody was sleeping. And so after I came back home, everybody, most of the people were working, but I finished working, so it was time for me to sleep. This is the second time. 3 hours each, 3 or 4 times hours each. But anyway, my back was so hard that I couldn't sleep. I couldn't keep sleeping for no more than 4 hours. Anyway, I had to wake up in the middle of sleep while I was sleeping. Anyway, I couldn't stay sleeping because my back was so painful because of my job. So I decided to change jobs at the age of 39. And when just before when I turned 40, I applied for the trading company as a part-time job, and then I passed the test. I got the very good grades for the test. That's what I heard from the I don't know how to say it. The worker who worked for the company, and his job was to recruit people, who was in charge of hiring people. And he said that I got almost 100 score or marks because I studied so much. I studied math. I studied mainly math, and I didn't have to study English because at that point I have been studying English for many years, so I was already good at English. I was not good at speaking, but I had enough knowledge about English to get a good score. And I did. And I was hired. And I worked for a year, okay? But I decided to quit because that was too suffocating for me. That job environment was too suffocating to me. I couldn't enjoy it at all. I learned a lot while I was working, but I felt that was not the best environment for myself. That was not where I should have been. It was a very small world, and everybody was competing in it. There are only 4 or 5 women, and those other women are much younger than I am, like my daughter's age. But I was the newest one, so I had to obey them, because in Japan, I don't know how to say it. It's a seniority system, and because I was new, right? Even though I was much older than others, but I had to be. They're my seniors, right? and they could be a bit nasty to me. They weren't very nice to me. And in the end, we became closer, and we became more friendly to each other though. But at first, it was really difficult for me to get along with them. And I really had to work hard to get along with them, other women, female workers, I mean. And in terms of male workers, they were just thinking about their promotions, and they tend to look down. They tended to look down on female workers. Okay, some of them even didn't say good morning to female workers, and they they seem to be okay, totally okay. They didn't seem to be they didn't even care about it. And that was one of the things that I didn't like about that company. It was a small office, and the boss who turned out to be my senior student, in high school, but I never knew him. I never knew of him when I was in high school, but he was 2 years senior than I was. And since we graduated from the same high school, my boss was quite friendly to me. But I didn't feel close to him because I didn't know that he was my senior, right? But he seemed to care much about me, and that was wrong. Because, and he was dominant. He was bossy, and he was moral harassment. I don't know how to use this word, but his sexual harassment. I don't know how to use this word either, though. Okay. When I told my boss that I wanted to quit my job, he said to me something really rude. Like, he said that he thought that I should stay in the company because I was at that time 40 years old, and he said that women in her 40s could not find a job anywhere else, so you should stay here. You'd better stay here. And that comment actually made me furious, and I got hurt. It hurt my feelings, and I was not the type of person that he assumed I would be. And then I decided to quit. Anyway, he stopped me from quitting, but that comment actually was what made me decide to quit, finally. I never changed my mind, and then I quit, okay? And then I had to work, right? After quitting the company, I had no job. So I started selling goods on auction sites, in Japanese sites at first. And then I started selling things, Japanese goods, on eBay. And in those days, Japanese goods sold like hotcakes. Japanese, not all the Japanese goods, but this very particular kind of goods sold like hotcakes. And I sold them. And before that, yes, 2008, I didn't know what to sell in those days, but Michael Jackson died suddenly, and then I was always looking for any goods, anything that could sell well. And then someone was selling this particular designer t-shirt that Michael Jackson was wearing in his DVD in a movie or something. And then the same print of t-shirt sold like hotcakes. And I found the same t-shirt on eBay at first, and then I decided to import them and try to sell them on Japanese site, and then Japanese auction site. And then it went out immediately. And I learned that this particular design was going to sell like hotcakes. And then I started to import them more and more. And then I decided to open my own website, which could sell American t-shirts. Because in those days, at that point, I started buying t-shirts from a particular website in the US, and they have so many design of t-shirts. And if I have them on my website, and after I got orders myself, and then I ordered them. I would order them from the American site, and although it would take 2 weeks or so until I got the t-shirts myself. Because I didn't have any t-shirts in Japan, right, on my website. I just had pictures of them. Okay, and the people who look at the pictures of my website placed an order, and I keep them until I got certain numbers of orders, and then I order them from my I don't know how to call it, supplier. Okay, I have this supplier in the US, and after I got enough orders from my people, then I place an order from the US. And if I buy like $500 or more, they give me a discount, like 15% to 25%. Okay, then after I import the t-shirts, and then I deliver them to my people. And that's how I managed to do my job. And it worked in those days because every time new movies or dramas come to Japan, or like, do you know the movie Ted? It was about a bear, very hilarious and vulgar. Vulgar, is it okay? Vulgar. Bear. Talking bear. Okay. When the movie came, Ted's t-shirts sold like hotcakes. And I was able to earn more money than I would if I worked as a part-time worker. And that was very good old days. That was good old days. But okay. Well, I have been talking for about 41 minutes, but I even don't know if I was making myself understood. Okay, anyway. Where was I? Yeah, and long story short, I went out of business. I went out of business just this month. I stopped doing business on my website. But instead, I still have so many t-shirts at home. And what am I going to do them? What am I going to do with them? Yeah, this is where my daughter comes in. Okay, she takes over my business and she now sells things online like I used to do. And she's a very meticulous person, and she's better at doing this job than I am. I depend on her. Is it okay? Depend on her. And now I'm happy that she sells all those t-shirts for me. And I'm basically I don't know. I'm out of job, but I'm retired. Yeah, I'm retired basically. I don't have to work anymore. So I worked for a long time and I don't want to work anymore. I want to spend my whole life, the rest of my life, doing what I want to do, one of which is studying English. And I have another thing that I want to do, which is Spanish, learning Spanish. I've been learning Spanish on and off for all these years. But I stopped studying it in June this year because I wanted to concentrate on my English. I've been away from Spanish for 3 months, and the longer I stay away from Spanish, the more I forget, right? It's natural, and I really want to go back to my Spanish as soon as possible, but I can't decide when. But my passion, I have my passion. I really want to learn Spanish more because I love the sound of Spanish. Especially I love the Latin American Spanish. I used to watch lots of Spanish dramas. And in those dramas, people speak both Spanish and English, and I really admire them. I think they're cool. I love those very cheerful people. I want to talk to them in Spanish in one of these days. But now I completely stopped studying Spanish because I really wanted to concentrate on my English first, and then if I'm satisfied with my English, I'll start Spanish again. But I don't know if this is right, because if you want to do something now, you should do now, right? You should do it now, because life is short. You never know what will happen tomorrow, right? If I want to learn Spanish now, I should learn it now. So, but I know how hard learning foreign languages it can be. So I tend to think that I have to be determined to do that. I always ask myself, do I have enough time to do it? Or do I have enough motivation? Do I have enough enthusiasm? Because it's going to be hard. It takes time. It'll take time. So, but at the same time, I think that I should use English to learn something. I don't have to study English anymore. I can use my English to study something else, right? In such a case, I can use my English to learn Spanish. Yeah, I did that. But learning two languages at the same time is quite complicated, right? But I'll give it a try to see if it works. Yeah, that's a good idea, I guess. Okay, that's about it for today, I think, because I don't want this practice to be too long. As I said, I'll have to review it. So it's gonna take the same amount of time anyway. I'd rather watch YouTube videos. I'd rather learn Spanish than listening to my own voice. Okay, anyway, I'm going to walk my dogs from now, and while I'm walking my dogs, I could listen to the recording, because that way I could save my time, right? Okay, thank you for listening, and I'll be back tomorrow too. If you are there, thank you for listening. Okay, I hope you have a wonderful day, lovely day tomorrow. Thank you, bye.